the Gridiron Podcast owes Daniel Ricciardo a thank you.
He had the first big driver decision in that show, too, if you think about it, when he made the move to Renault. And it was right after he jumped into some bay, some cove on a trip. Like he was.
Yeah, I think he was in Monaco. He's just like, I'm just gonna dive shirtless into this cove in Monaco.
Yeah.
This is a tough decision.
I'm going to Renault. Good job, directors.
If I could go back in time and just shake him and go, no, don't do it, Daniel.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't know what the future holds, and it's not good.
Renault sucks. Their engines are unreliable.
They're so bad they changed their name to Alpine, and they still suck.
And speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome. What for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, we keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 And today, we break through.
What's up, everybody? It is time for your favorite podcast, and so far as we know, the only one in the world that covers our two loves exclusively. It's time for the Gridiron Podcast. Our two loves, by the way, being Formula One and football. Thus, being the grid and the iron, the gridiron. You get it. Okay. If you're new to the podcast, I feel like I got to explain that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nick.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah. It's episode 49 of the Gridiron Podcast. As always, I am Sean Barie, and joining me up in Cleveland, holding down the fort in DeLand, it's the bald behemoth, Nick Shook.
Hello. How are we? I'm trying to actually load my sound recorder right now.
I was about to say, normally you flex, normally you say something.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Okay,
I'm sorry. I'm running on fumes, my friend. It's been
that's okay.
It's another week in the NFL, and whoo, baby, we're getting near the finish line of the gargantuan piece I work on every week, and I'm bringing the most energy I have left in the tank right now. It is episode 49, as you said, Sean. And do you have a creative name for it? What player wore 49?
I'm drawing a blank. Do you got one? Without Google searching, as he Google searches.
Best athletes who wore number 49. Bobby Mitchell, receiver for the Browns, Pro Football Hall of Famer. There you go.
If you say so, I'll believe
Tim
it.
Wakefield wore 49. We're not going to call
rest
this
in peace.
Edmonds episode. Yeah. Wow, this is not a good group. Yeah. All right, we'll move on from that.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. If you are not new to the podcast, it is normally myself, Nick Shook, and our Canadian queen, Katie Caldwell. She is off again this week because she is helping deliver a baby. Her best friend of 28 years. I know, because she was off last week because she was on baby watch, and it has taken another week. But thankfully, she texted us a couple of hours ago and said it's baby time. So the baby's coming, and we hope for nothing but a healthy, happy bundle of joy. This is not Katie's baby. This is just she's there for moral support for her best friend of 28 years. So
for a week, think about
that. Seriously.
May you all find a friendship as dedicated and loyal as Katie's friendship with her best friend.
I'm sitting here in Florida and you're sitting in Cleveland. Nick, if for some reason, I'm having a child or you're having a child, are you going to come down and stay with me for a week and wait for this child to be born?
No, absolutely not. I'll come see you eventually.
Wow. Okay.
Congratulate you, but I'm not going to be in the delivery room. No.
I feel like we're learning a lot here on the podcast this week.
Especially with the football season.
Leave that there. Okay, whatever. Okay. As Nick and I mentioned, it's episode 49. We've got a lot to get to. Week 3 of the NFL is officially in the books. We're going to lead off with the NFL, and then we're going to get into the Singapore Grand Prix, which could be described as Monaco with the walls, without the excitement and the emotion.
But
we'll talk about it with the bridge. And at night. It's the Monaco Grand Prix. At night. All right, let's get into week 3 in the NFL. I feel like we're starting to separate the wheat from the chaff here, because the first couple of weeks we're like, all right, who are these teams? What are they going to look like? Hey, look at that. The Bengals and Ravens are starting 0-2. Yeah, I don't feel good about that. Ravens get a win. Bengals are now 0-3. There's a couple more upsets. The last 2 weeks, Nick, I feel like have been upset city in the NFL. What's going on? As I ask our resident NFL.com talent writer, as his contract states.
John, I have just accepted that after 3 weeks, I don't know what the hell is going on in this league, because my picks have been awful. I'm usually like top 5 nationally in picks every year. I usually am very good. Not very good this year, because when I think the Giants might be the worst team in football, they beat the Browns. When I think the Texans are going to give the Vikings a run for their money, they have an awful game. The Vikings look like one of the best teams in football. When I think that, I'm writing down more of these here.
The Vikings are just flat out playing good football.
When I think that the banged up, the bruised, the battered Rams are going to get beat by the 49ers, they mount an incredible comeback and win that game. When I think that the Bengals are going to get off the schneid and beat the Commanders, who brought the league's worst defense into 2024, they lose a shootout to the Commanders. I don't know what's going on, Sean. I sent my picks in today. Can't wait to see how many I get wrong next time. And that's the beauty of the NFL. I don't know if it is beauty, because that's what makes it so popular. I feel like I've been using that phrase too much recently, but this league is so close in talent that anything can happen. The any given Sunday thing really is true. And we see it every week. And we saw it for sure this week with a number of 0-2 teams that were able to get off the schneid and get their first wins of the season. One being the Carolina Panthers and Andy Dalton, but a number of them did. New York Giants. So you say you're separating the best from the chaff, that type of thing. I don't feel like we are yet. I feel like we got a handful of teams that look really good but haven't been tested yet, and then a bunch of nonsense in between.
I feel like we're starting to get a clearer picture, though. The NFL is always going to have parity, but I think we are starting to see, okay, that's not a fluke. This team is actually good and they can play, like the Minnesota Vikings. Covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down here in Tampa. Yeah, I was in the locker room after that loss to the Broncos, which we'll get into in a second. But it's funny that you mention, it's any given Sunday. That was the exact quote that Chris Godwin gave to me in the locker room. He said, what you have to remember is, in this league, it really is any given Sunday. Of course, he's saying that after coming in after beating the Lions in week 2 on the road, and then in come the hapless, or so we thought, Denver Broncos with Bo Nix, who of the group of rookie quarterbacks looked by far the worst. And hey, what do you know? The Broncos knock off the Bucs, who everyone was really high on. Where do you want to start week 3, Nick?
Let's start with the best performance ever by a rookie quarterback, maybe, at least in terms of completion percentage. Jayden freaking Daniels is the truth, baby. Oh my God, what a thriller on Monday night with the Commanders winning a shootout over the Bengals. The first game since at least 1940, probably in NFL history, that neither team punted or turned the ball over. They just scored and scored and scored and scored, and the half ended, and they scored some more. And Jayden Daniels went damn near perfect and had 2 big guts throws, onions. Sam Cassell danced down the floor. You know what I'm talking about, including a dagger plunged into the hearts of the Bengals fans everywhere. That 27-yard pass to Terry McLaurin. They hooked up 4 times for 100 yards. Daniels was awesome. Everybody is now on notice. This kid is for real, and the Commanders have a reason to believe.
Let me tell you about this game, because I was at the gym when it started, and I was going to warm up with some light cardio on the elliptical. Unfortunately, the TVs on the elliptical at my gym did not have the Bills and Jags game on. I don't know why.
For the best.
I was going to say, I don't know why I said unfortunately, because that was a blowout and a boring game. But it did have the Bengals and Commanders game on. Nick, my entire workout turned into cardio because I did not want to look away. That's how entertaining of a game this was. Washington really just went punch for punch with them. And then you're watching Jayden Daniels going, oh, shoot, the Commanders might win this game. Like, Joe Burrow better do something. And, of course, the Bengals put up more of a fight in the second half. But props to Jayden Daniels. I saw him here in Tampa week 1, and I was impressed with what he could do with his legs. Again, Todd Bowles going up against rookie quarterbacks. He's done that now twice in 3 weeks. The rule is Todd Bowles and his defense, they just eat rookie quarterbacks for lunch. That was the exception this week. But I am very impressed with what Jayden Daniels has been able to do in his first 3 weeks in the league. And, I mean, at this point, yeah, he looks like the best rookie quarterback out there.
I have an issue with how the Bengals approached this. It was probably because they needed to kind of contain Daniels as a rusher. He ended up leading the Commanders in rushing with 12 attempts for 39 yards and a touchdown. There's a 4-yard touchdown run set up by a Daniels pass to Terry McLaurin for 55 yards.
And I texted you even at one point in this game, said, man, I was just about to say he really needs to look down the field more, just as he hits Terry McLaurin for a deep seam route.
Did. And my feed was actually play behind, so you spoiled that for me, which made it that much sweeter.
I'm so sorry.
I actually saw the play. No,
again,
because I'm like,
blame
what? And I look up
blame the elliptical.
Like, oh.
Blame the elliptical at my LA Fitness.
Yeah. So like they didn't blitz him until like the end of the game, and like Louis Anarumo, he's not working with the best defense in terms of personnel, especially up front. Like they have not been able to. They got bludgeoned on the ground by the Patriots in week 1. Not quite as much the case in that loss into the Chiefs in week 2, but it made sense why maybe they didn't want to blitz as much. But my God, when you're facing a rookie quarterback, like you said, Todd Bowles' approach, eat him for lunch, speed the guy up. And they didn't speed him up. They let him operate back there. And then when they did send the blitz, he handled it like he was a 10-year vet and just tossed a perfect pass to McLaurin for a touchdown. He's awesome. He's awesome. The Commanders are 2-1. I don't know how good they'll actually be because they still kind of lack talent a little bit. But when you have a quarterback like that that's able to elevate your whole team and give them hope and everybody can rally around him, you never know what can happen. So very fun game to watch. Thriller. If you don't have it, go get NFL Plus. It's a plug for my employer. Watch the replay. Find it on your cable if they run a replay on NFL Network or something, because this game was awesome.
I'm just saying, again, and I keep getting flashbacks to RG3. Just Jayden Daniels, please, for the sake of your fan base, your team, stay healthy. Learn how to slide. Learn how to get rid of the ball.
He slid.
I know.
One time he slid.
I know. He was looking for contact down here week 1 in the Bucs. And I to you. And it's really funny that, Dan Quinn, who wasn't the Commanders' first choice for head coach, or their second or third, but maybe not even their fourth, he's coaching a good team. And when you have the quarterback, everything kind of, fits into place. We've seen that before with CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. Like it's working in Washington right now. How long that lasts, we'll see, because this is still a division that has the Eagles and Cowboys. Well, it's a division that still has the Eagles in it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how the Cowboys do. It's early. It's still early. Giants, they look like a competent team on Sunday. Like
no, Nick, stop it. They played the Browns. They played the Browns.
They looked competent the week before. They just lost because they didn't have a kicker.
No.
That's why.
No. Stop it. The Giants played the Browns, and that's why.
They looked competent the week before. Daniel Jones has put together 2 good performances. What can I say? I'm not saying that they're going to make it interesting. They're not going to win the division. I get it. But what I'm saying is it's not going to be as easy as we thought in the East. These are not 2 extreme bottom feeders.
You need to talk more softly, Nick, when you talk about the Giants being good. I mean, people are going to.
I didn't say they were good.
Know what you're talking about?
Competent. That's different.
So if we don't have the Giants as the just worst team in the league, and the Panthers won because apparently Bryce Young was the problem, that leaves the Jags and the Bengals as the 2 worst teams.
No, the Bengals are not as bad as their record indicates.
Hold on. Wait, no. 0-3 Bengals, 0-3 Jags. These are 2 teams that were supposed to be in the playoffs. What is happening?
The Jags have problems. The Bengals will figure it out.
I think I said that last week. I said, hey, the Ravens are 0-2. The Bengals are 0-2. I had more confidence in the Bengals figuring it out than I do in the Ravens figuring it out. I still do, honestly. I think the Bengals will figure it out eventually. But only 2.6% of teams that have ever started a season 0-3 have made the playoffs. So the Bengals.
I'm not saying they're going to.
I know. The Bengals have
they are going to be competitive.
Yeah, the Bengals have a hole to dig themselves out of. The Jags, I have no idea what's going on in Duval County right now.
Peterson.
I love it, but I have no idea what's going on.
Doug Peterson's seat is already warming up, my friend. I'm telling you that right now because they've won one of their last 9 games dating back to last year. It's very ugly, and I don't see any way it's going to get any better anytime soon. Trevor Lawrence has not been good.
I was going to say, can we call a spade a spade? Trevor Lawrence is incredibly mid.
Yeah, because I feel like he already hit his ceiling, not because of a lack of talent, but a lack of like development. And I don't even think that's on the coaching staff. I just think it's on Trevor and the way he handles the position. Things are just hard for him. That shouldn't be hard. He's just too inconsistent. He makes a few really great throws a game. And then there are a lot of throws where you're like, how did you miss that? What were you trying to do there? Are you trying too hard? Did you not understand the coverage? What's going on there? And I think that because of the pressure and the way that the Jags season ended last year, it's not going to look good by about week 10. And Doug Peterson's probably the number one hot seat guy right now, even though it's really early in the year. His seat's getting warm for sure. And I also think that the team that plays just down the road from me is headed for a long, dark season as well.
That being the Browns.
Yes, the Cleveland Browns. They're not a good football team. They have a good defense, and they have a bad offense, and they have a bad quarterback.
I feel like this is my fault, Nick, because I feel like this was my fault because I was high on the Browns coming into this season. And as I'm literally wearing a TJ Watt Steelers jersey as we speak, but like, is this my fault? Did I do this? Did I jinx your hometown team?
No, that's their fault for making the play for Deshaun Watson. It's their fault for I mean, their offensive line hasn't been good. They haven't protected him well, but Deshaun Watson's bad.
Does Nick Chubb coming back fix this?
No, it doesn't.
Really?
Ken Dorsey's the offensive coordinator. I know he's not the play caller, but he's the offensive coordinator, and he's never run the ball well in his past. So no, they are so much more than Nick. They don't even run the ball as it is. Like Jerome Ford gets like maybe 10 carries a game, like that, even in close games. They're bad, Sean. It's going to be I think they'll go to Vegas and lose to the Raiders and be 1-3, and it's going to get ugly. I promise you, I think it's going to get ugly.
Oh man. Yeah, losing to the Cowboys in that fashion, fine. I understand week 1, even though I picked the Browns to do that. But then losing to the Giants at home and
Giants
making
have a good
them,
defensive front, I will say.
And then making them, as you said, look competent, that's raising a couple of red flags. All right, what do we got next?
All right, we got up next is the other Monday night game. The Buffalo Bills ran right through the Jacksonville Jaguars. We already talked about how the Jaguars are bad. Sean, do you think, truthfully, because it is only week 3, do you think the Bills are a Super Bowl contender?
Yes.
Why?
The way they are, I don't know, vibes. This is a vibes-based podcast, as Katie would love to say.
Show. Yeah.
This team, if you were to tell me that they're going to pretty much rehaul their entire offense minus their quarterback, and they're going to be better for it, no Stephon Diggs, like what? No Gabe Davis, I said in our division preview, I said they're going to ask Josh Allen to do too much. And to be fair, Josh Allen is doing a lot. But at the same time, it's working. And I don't know why, but they're playing a freer style of football that is just allowing them to be who they are and exploit their best qualities. Like, this just looks like a team that is firing on all cylinders. And Sean McDermott looks like a coach of the year candidate. Josh Allen looks like MVP frontrunner right now.
Here's what happened. They went and replaced their offensive coordinator, learned how to run the football again, and decided to operate
That's simple.
As a unit instead of an offense led by a star quarterback. And when you can run the ball well, and that's a constant threat, and when your quarterback is one of the most valuable rushers in the NFL, it makes it so much harder to defend you. And it doesn't matter who you have at receiver, as long as they're competent or better, which Curtis Samuel, we have Keon Coleman out there. That group is good enough, and good enough is all you need when you have that type of approach. I'm blanking on the other name. It's actually really irritating me, so I'm gonna look it up right now. But it's Matt Collins, and Khalil Shakir as well. This is not a receiver group that like you look at on paper and think, wow, they're amazing, but they're producing. They're producing because they can run the ball well. They have a solid offensive line. They have a superstar quarterback, and they are racking up points in bunches. And when they play a team like the Jaguars, who are about as lost at sea as can be, it produces a lopsided win that makes everybody think, oh my God, they're the best team ever. I don't think they are, and I think they're going to get tested, and they'll probably fall back to earth a little bit, but they're on fire right now, and I think Josh Allen's a legitimate MVP candidate right now.
Them or the Vikings? Who has looked the best in the first 3 weeks, Nick?
I think the
because we do
Vikings
have to talk about the Vikings.
The Vikings have probably been the most complete team in terms of playing complementary football. Sam Darnold obviously is helping that offense a ton. They're protecting him well. Aaron Jones was a massive pickup. You have Justin Jefferson. You still haven't gotten TJ Hawkinson back. Jalen Naylor's making a contribution with Jordan Addison being out. But their defense has also played way better than I think we expected. And that's
Brian
another
Flores,
team
baby. Brian Flores.
But, that's another team that, you look at their schedule, they played the Giants, dominated them, upset win over the Niners, upset win over the Texans.
I was going to say,
now they get 2 more tests: Packers, Jets, bye, Lions. Those are 3 more tests in 4 weeks. If they come out of those undefeated, then there's no reason we should be discounting them at all. We should take them seriously.
We really should, because if we're at least saying that the Giants are competent, then that's a win. You beat the Niners, and then you steamroll over the Texans, who were 2-0 and looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. What the, when Brian Flores left the Steelers to go to Minnesota and be the defensive coordinator, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, man, we're going to miss him. The Steelers are going to miss Brian Flores. And they did for a while, but at the same time, well, would you rather have Terrell Austin or would you rather have Brian Flores as your DC? Right now, I don't think it matters with the Steelers group, and we'll get into that in a second. No. But for my money, I think you're right. I think the Vikings have looked like the most complete team in the NFL. And now you're kind of looking at Sam Darnold going, oh, shoot, is he the quarterback of the future? You have to ask. You do.
I don't know if I'm there yet.
I'll go there.
He's taken like 3 steps forward. He looks poised. He looks comfortable. It helps that they protect him pretty well. But he's also doing things that he hasn't done before, which is like trusting his protection long enough to go through multiple reads in the progression and finding open guys, using his very strong arm to deliver, extending plays occasionally when needed. Operating the offense as it's designed. Kevin O'Connell's done a great job with him so far.
Yes.
A lot better than I thought he would. But I also think that that's why I'm still doing a wait and see with the Vikings. Like, I picked them to lose this week because I think they're number one, they're due. And I think the Packers defense is going to be a legit test for them. What's interesting though, is on the defensive side of the ball, like they did to CJ Stroud what the Bengals should have done to Jayden Daniels, which is just hunt the quarterback and just send pressure all day. And the Texans have like legit protection issues, and they could not keep CJ from being pressured like all afternoon. Like, he never got comfortable. So that benefited them in that matchup. They've played the matchup games really well week to week. So I'm very curious to see what their plan is going to be for the Packers. It also depends on who plays quarterback for the Packers. Malik Willis had a really good day where he actually had to do things to win a game for the Packers, and he did against the Titans, his former team that just dumped him unceremoniously in a trade to the Packers just before the start of the season. But I'm not quite sold on him yet. We'll see. I think about that Vikings team from a couple of years ago that won a ton of, they won 10 games by 1 possession. They're not winning games like that now. They're winning games legitimately, but it is so early that I'm still waiting and seeing, because I do feel like, they're going to regress to the mean at some point, just because most teams do.
I do have to say, real quick, side note, I loved seeing Malik Willis just destroy the Tennessee Titans. And before the game, of course, he was asked, is this a revenge game? And he was genuine. He said, no, of course not. This is the team that brought me into the league. They gave me a chance. They were nothing but cordial with me. Like, he didn't do enough in Tennessee to prove that he belonged there. But he gets his revenge on them regardless. People are like, oh, well, Malik Willis can't throw down the field. He had 2 30-yard completions on the first drive of the game. This kid is capable, at least backup in this league, and the Packers are going to be a problem whether they have him or Jordan Love at the helm.
You know what's so funny about that, Sean, is he looked nothing like that in Tennessee. Like this preseason,
Not at all.
looked nothing like that. And it just
Is
speaks
he-
to how important situation is. It's
And
so
he's-
important for quarterbacks.
Right now, he looks like, I mean, everyone was like, oh, he's the best talent in that 2021 draft class. Was it 2021? Yeah, 2021, right?
Yeah.
22?
No, two.
22. He's the best talent in that 22 draft class. It's like, no, it's Kenny Pickett. It might have been Malik Willis after all.
It certainly wasn't
At
Kenny
this
Pickett.
point, it certainly was not Kenny Pickett. At this point, they are all backups anyway, or
It
out
was
of the league
2022.
altogether.
Confirmed.
Speaking of, we were just talking about the Vikings, 3-0. You were talking about how Kevin O'Connell has done a good job. Speaking of good coaching and 3-0 teams, let's throw it down to Pittsburgh, my man. Let's go talk about the Steelers.
Go ahead. Floor is yours.
I'm slightly more optimistic this week than I was in the first 2 weeks. I mean, I'm not as optimistic as I would be if I was a Vikings fan, just because they're blowing people out, but at this and getting great quarterback play. You look at where the Steelers were week 1, though, couldn't find the end zone, and Justin Fields at times looked lost, but he kept drives going long enough, either with his legs, his decision making, and Chris Boswell inside, no wind is automatic. Week 2 on the road against the Broncos, who we now know are a competent team with okay quarterback play and a good defense. They are going to be tough to play against all year long. But again, very defensive battle, couldn't even crack 20 points. And then you look at what Justin Fields was able to do week 3 in the second half specifically. He looks more comfortable. He looks more confident. And I think I was on this podcast week 1 and week 2 saying, yeah, great, whatever. I still want to see what Russell Wilson can do. I'm starting to step back from that ledge a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm
surprised Russell's even in the conversation for you. I think Justin's earned the job for as long as he wants it.
As long as they're winning, why would you not? Because they're starting to open up the playbook a little bit more. Arthur Smith is starting to trust his quarterback a little bit more. They're starting to use the middle of the field a little bit more. You're seeing Calvin Austin get involved. I forgot Scotty Miller was even still in the league, if I'm being honest. Pat Freiermuth is getting involved more. Cordero Patterson and Najee Harris are running the ball really well. This is a Steelers unit that looks poised, well coached, and together, which is not something, and they're improving. That's the biggest thing for me as a Steelers fan. At no point in the last 2 years with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph as quarterback did I look at a 3-week stretch and go, oh, I can see improvements. I see that I can see the picture. I can see that picture now. Couple that with a defense that is just so freaking nasty. I mean, nasty. Yeah, this is a team that will win games this year and will be in almost every game they play.
I mean, that's what we talked about going into the season, was that the defense would keep them in every game. And so far they have, but yeah, Fields, Fields took like 3 steps, 2 step and a half forward.
I was going to say, let's not give him too much credit. Like, let's pump the brakes there a little bit. Pump the brakes there a little bit. Pump the brakes.
He looked, for the first time maybe in his entire career, he looked confident delivering the football quickly.
Yeah.
And they have not protected him very well, but he made a habit in his time in Chicago of holding on to the ball and scrambling. He had 1 attempt on a scramble out of all of his pass attempts in that game. It was the lowest rate of his entire career. He had 32 attempts, passing attempts, 1 on a scramble. That is a coordinator scheming to a quarterback's strengths. And the best part about it was he didn't have to rely on George Pickens solely. Like, Calvin Austin became his third down guy down the seam. He became his guy that he connected with for a 55-yard touchdown to really ice that game. It was nice to see him spread the football around. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys caught a pass, including a negative 4-yard reception for Jalen Warren. So we'll strike that from the record. But they spread the ball around. They ran the ball well enough. Their best offensive showing so far against a very physical Chargers team. And now we find out when they go in week 4, they go play Indianapolis, who gave up a ton of points to the Texans in week 1. I can see the Steelers holding them, limiting them, turning Anthony Richardson over because he's a turnover machine. Him and Caleb Williams got into a turnover fest in week 3. And then you go to week 5 and they play the Cowboys. But they play the Cowboys at home. So
Nick,
we'll see.
I'll be honest. I fully expect the Steelers will lose this week to the Colts, and then somehow steamroll the Cowboys. That's just,
And
I don't know.
that
That's
is
just,
a
I feel like
fan.
I've been
That's a fan of yours.
conditioned to that
Yes.
happening to this
Yep.
team over the past couple of years. Maybe I'm proven wrong, and maybe we're sitting here in 2 weeks' time, and the Steelers are 5-0. I really doubt it. They're going to lose one of these two games. Like, they got to lose at some point. But I'm starting to gain confidence because it looks like they are. The offensive line, yes, you're right. It has some holes in it. Troy Fautanu. Yeah, he's going to be out for the season. Could come back for the playoffs. Seems like he was rushed back from his injury in the preseason. Broderick Jones played a little bit better this week after being benched last week. And then, oh man, I know you're an offensive lineman. You got to love Zach Frazier at center.
I do. I don't like Dan Moore at tackle.
Well, no, because Broderick Jones was supposed to be his replacement. Now they both have to play. So
yeah,
it's
hey, keep an eye on that.
Here we are. This is what we're supposed to do. But I do love Zach Frazier, the center, the rookie center out of West Virginia, he's a former wrestler and sort of just taking people to the ground every time he blocks. I'm more confident. Should I be as confident as a Vikings fan? No, but it's clear that the Steelers upgraded at quarterback, and that has made a world of difference.
All right, Sean. I agree, and I'm looking forward to more Justin Fields football.
Which is words I thought we would never say.
I used to say it when he was at Ohio State. Taking more steps forward. That's what I want to see. Very encouraging development from him this week. But I don't want to talk about Bo Nix. I know it's in the agenda. I don't want to talk about the Broncos and the Bucks. Sorry to take that away from you.
No, that's fine.
Let's go to F1.
I watched that game for 3.5 hours. It was really actually like 2 hours, 45 minutes in the Florida heat, and I don't need to reminisce on it anymore. Bo Nix got his first win. Sean Payton out coached Todd Bowles. That's all you need to know.
Yep, that's basically it. Tough day for.
Let's shift gears. Let's go to F1.
Oh wait, actually, hold on, Sean. One thing. Because of that game, I think we can now pump the brakes on the whole Baker's gonna win MVP thing.
Yeah, we can definitely pump the brakes on that. Baker was looking a little 2021-ish there for my taste, but
rough day.
Yeah, rough day. They're a little banged up, and the offensive line didn't have a great day. Again, Sean Payton now coached Todd Bowles. That much was very much clear. Switching gears to F1, we were in Singapore this week for the 15th annual Singapore Grand Prix. Nick, you want to give us a recap? Because I know you watched the race.
I did.
An hour ago.
A couple hours ago. Lando Norris finally held a lead after lap 1. Congrats, Lando. You did it.
A wire-to-wire win.
Proud of you, kid. That car is dumb fast. He pulled away. Yes. He had like a 13-second gap before like lap 20.
He was lapping at a lap faster than Max Verstappen. So here's how it shook down. Lando Norris gets pole, and the knock on him all season long, if you haven't been following, is, well, he has not finished a lap 1 in first place after starting on pole. He kicked that trend this week, finishes lap 1 in the lead, and then never gave it up. He was in the lead the entire race. He surpassed the safety car checkpoint, and he surpassed the pit stop checkpoint. Like, he was just, at one point, he was 29 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second place. The problem is that these two drivers who are in a title race, and Max now has a 51-point lead on Lando, Lando only took 7 points out of his lead. Like, this weekend, because Red Bull have historically been terrible at Singapore, this was the weekend you looked at and said, wow, Max might be like an 8th, 9th, 10th place, maybe not even score any points at all. Like, this is the race where Lando can take a nice 15, 20-point chunk out of Max's lead, and it winds up being a 7-point lead because Max was just on it this weekend in that Red Bull. McLaren get a double podium. They extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. But Lando, he wins the race, his third career win, his third win of the season. But he doesn't get the Grand Slam. He doesn't get fastest lap, pole, and the win because his old teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, in a V-carb on the last lap of the race, who got last place, so he doesn't even get the extra point that comes with the fastest lap, stole fastest lap from him.
Well, last place for cars that finished. There's 2 DNFs too. He finished P18. I just love that because I was watching the race in 30, and they're like, oh, and Daniel Ricciardo sets the fastest lap, and I was like, He's still an ally to Red Bull. Why else do you pit a V carb for the fastest lap?
Well, he's also a Red Bull contracted
That's what
driver.
I'm saying.
Okay, real quick, let's talk about the title race. 51 points, 5 races to go, still 3 sprint races. As it stands, Max could finish second in every single race, and Lando could finish first with the fastest lap, and he still would not catch Max
Yeah,
Verstappen.
'cause that's a 40-point gain.
Yeah.
So he's gonna need to win like all the sprint races, and Max needs to not finish second in the sprint races.
Well, here's the thing too. We're asking. It doesn't need to shake out like that because this isn't like the Lewis and Max fight we had in 2021 where they were
Where it was, like,
finishing P1 and
guaranteed.
P2.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
one of them was going to win, one of them was going to finish second. That was like every race, something in that scenario was going to happen. Lando might finish P2, Max might finish P8. Max might finish P5, Lando might finish P4. Like that's what we're going to get from here on out. So it's going to be interesting. I still think Max is going to win the Drivers' Championship. He just built up too much of a lead, but it's going to be interesting when we go into Abu Dhabi. I don't think Max is going to have it wrapped up yet.
No, he won't. I think it's going to be tight all the way to the end. But let's real quick, now that we're on this topic, let's go track by track here real quick and just think. Where are the moments where Lando could take the biggest chunk out of him? Because we get Coda next, and we also have like a 3-week gap before this race. Then we get the Mexican Grand Prix, Brazil. We go over to Sao Paulo, the Vegas race, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. Where in this stretch? Actually, you said 5 races. We got 6 races left.
Oh, we got 6 races left. Perfect.
Where in this stretch does Lando have the best chance to make up the most points?
Probably, I don't know because Red Bull is bringing upgrades. So this isn't a summer break. We have a 3-week break, but they're allowed to work on the
summer
cars.
break was.
Exactly. But they are allowed to work on the cars, unlike the summer break. So every team will be developing the cars over this 3-week break, headed into Austin. I think the McLaren should be quick in Austin, but so should the Red Bull. We'll see what those upgrades are like. Again, these are upgrades without Adrian Newey. Like this is a different Red Bull team. McLaren is going to be quick at every track. Like that's just who they are now. They're going to be competitive and quick and one of the fastest cars at every track, if not the fastest car at every track. When I look at these tracks, though, and I think where will McLaren be the strongest? I look at Austin. I look at Sao Paulo for sure.
Yeah,
because that is a very fast track.
Yep.
Probably not Qatar. I mean, that might be one of the weaker ones. And then Abu Dhabi, yeah, because they're just the fastest car already. When you start on pole in that race, you win. Like every race at Abu Dhabi, whoever started on pole has won the race. So
we're gonna need McLaren to take a chunk out at the next race. We're gonna need them to take a chunk out at Brazil.
But Red Bull is also strong. So your question was where could McLaren take a chunk? I don't know. Sao Paulo might be the only one, maybe Mexico.
Yeah, I was thinking
where they can actually take a chunk out of Red Bull. Aside from that, it's going to be a close race, which means Max is going to win. But it's going to be interesting all the way to the end.
And you're also fighting the old Checo vibes in the Mexican GP because, that's his home race.
That's his home race.
Yeah. Let's go back real quick. Let's go back to Singapore real quick.
Okay.
I would like to point out Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz did a damn good job of making the most of that race. Where they started to where they finished, obviously car superiority and everything else.
Yes.
But they executed really well.
And Ferrari's strategy for the last couple of weeks has been pretty much spot on.
What world is it? Like
I know.
They're not making strategy mistakes anymore.
No. Neither is McLaren at the moment, which is wild to think. They started P8 and 9?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe 9 and 10, something like that. 9 and 10
because neither of them put down a time in Q3.
And you had Charles finish. I'll remind me, where did he finish? Where did they both finish?
I'll tell you right now.
I should know this.
They moved up. Sorry, I had it in front of me. I moved away from it real quick. Charles finished P5. Carlos finished P7, and they inverted because of tire differences. Carlos is actually in front of him at one point.
And
but
I said this was
9 and 10 to 5 and 7. That's nice.
I said this was Monaco with the walls, but without the emotion, because in Monaco, at least we had the emotion of Charles winning his home race for the first time ever. First Monegasque driver to win the Monaco Grand Prix since like 1933. This was, honestly, this race was a bit of a snooze fest.
Yeah.
It's just,
well,
you
had some good Oscar Piastri moves.
When don't you?
You got to admit, because Oscar Piastri started P5 and he finished P3.
Tell you what, next year, if these cars are remotely similar, which they will be, we do have to consider Oscar Piastri in the conversation for World Drivers' Championship.
Oh, without a doubt. He might be, this is hyperbolic, I admit that. He might be the best at overtaking on the track among the young drivers, if not all drivers.
You know who he reminds me of?
Is it Lewis Hamilton? I don't know.
No.
Who?
A young Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh, that's what they were saying on the broadcast, showing off his racecraft like Daniel Ricciardo once did.
He loves the late braking. It's something the Aussies
he pulls it
love
off
to do.
every time. He makes it stick.
And he makes it work. He's like, even in Azerbaijan last week when he won, when he passed Charles Leclerc for the lead, he was like, I have a 50-50 chance of making this work. The 50% chance is it works. The other 50% chance is he goes into the wall and his race is over. His weekend is over and McLaren's race is over. Like, that's the kind of driver he is. He is ready to stake it on the line and stake his claim as one of these guys that can be depended on and win these races. And I've really been impressed with him, especially the second half of the season. And he reminds me of a young Daniel Ricciardo. And of course, this week, all the talk was, is this Daniel Ricciardo's last race in F1? I feel like we do have to talk about this. We have to talk about this because we owe Daniel Ricciardo so much.
Well, so all week owes him so much for being marketable more than anything.
So all week long, it's leaked out there that this might be his last race. He might be replaced by Liam Lawson, who is a young Red Bull driver who we saw step into, I believe, 2 races last year when Daniel had a broken wrist. Daniel was brought into Red Bull, V-Carb, AlphaTauri, whatever you want to call them, last year after they fired Nick DeVries. And it was expected that he was going to kind of skyrocket, prove himself, destroy Yuki Tsunoda, and then replace Checo Perez in the Red Bull second seat. That didn't happen. And you now have people wondering, yeah, what is he even doing here anymore? Like, yeah, he's marketable. He's entertaining. He's a face and he's a name. But really, what is he doing? He is a 34-year-old in a junior Red Bull seat. What is he doing here anymore? And that's fair. But what's unfair is that Red Bull just hung him out to dry all week long. No official announcement has been made about his future. Everything is kind of like, hey, this is Daniel Ricciardo's last race. Like, just, don't tell anyone else. Just, keep it to yourself. Yes, this is probably his last race. And he was hung out to dry, answering questions about it all week long. And you could tell it took a toll on him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for him because he's a guy who drives with his emotions on his sleeve. And he's been through a lot ever since he decided to leave Red Bull. What was that, 2020? And he ended up, with Renault, and then Renault proved
2019
unreliable.
even.
Yeah. Renault proved to be unreliable in terms of like their engines. And then he goes to McLaren and they take a massive step back at the time. And then he is out of F1 and now he's back. And yeah, I mean, that's why when he was testing for Red Bull before he took Nick DeVries' seat, they were like, oh, he's lapping at the same pace as Max. And I'm like, well, he's also in the best car in his testing. Like, of course he is. He's still a good driver. And then you put him in a car that's not that good. Like, so much of F1 is so hard to judge for the average fan because it's like, how do you actually separate between good driver and not good driver when the machinery they're in is not that good? You have to compare them against their teammate. And he hasn't outdriven his teammate. And because of that, like the whole idea of him replacing Checo out the window, obviously Red Bull doesn't want to move on from Checo for whatever reason. He must know where the bodies are buried. And he has had a nice little bounce back recently. But I mean, they're not going anywhere with that either. But yeah, it's a bummer. But at the same time, like when he left McLaren, like they bought him out because he wasn't doing well.
No.
Kind of all
and
the
you look at what Oscar Piastri's done.
Yeah. Well, and the car got really better a lot after he left. But like, the writing's been on the wall for a long time. It sucks, but thanks, man. You had a hell of a run, and you're a really cool guy. and you're like the favorite podcast guest when they go to Coda every year in stateside. So keep doing that. I don't know.
I don't know why, but when I remember Daniel Ricciardo, I'm going to remember him on the podium at Monza with Zach Brown and Lando Norris doing a shoey.
Yep.
You know, that one random win McLaren had, that 1-2 finish, and that's what I'm going to remember him for. But you just said, you know, F1 owes him a thank you. They do. But not only that, Nick, we owe him a thank you. I mean, think about it. So many people owe him a thank you because so many people came to realize what a great sport F1 is during the pandemic. We had nothing to do, and we decided to watch Drive to Survive. I started actually a little before the pandemic, and then when it hit, you texted me and you're like, hey, got any show recommendations? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, watch this show, Drive to Survive on Netflix. Now, lo and behold, we have a podcast talking about Formula One.
Yeah,
The
at the
very
same time I started playing the game too, and like,
Yeah.
who was in the game? Daniel Ricciardo. Same
The
thing.
very first voice, when you go back to episode 1, season 1 in 2017, 2018, whatever it was of Drive to Survive, the first voice you hear is Daniel Ricciardo's voice. That show, for better or for worse, has brought in so many fans, not just in the US, but worldwide. F1 owes him a thank you. F1 fans owe him a thank you. The Gridiron Podcast owes Daniel Ricciardo a thank you.
He had the first big driver decision in that show too, if you think about it, when he made the move to Renault. And it was right after he jumped into some like bay, some cove on a trip. Like he was
I think he was in Monaco. He's just like, I'm just gonna dive shirtless into this cove in Monaco.
Yeah.
This is a tough decision.
I'm going to Renault. Good job, directors.
If I could go back in time and just shake him and go, no, don't do it, Daniel.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't know what the future holds, and it's not good.
Renault sucks. Their engines are unreliable.
They're so bad they changed their name to Alpine, and they still suck. By the way, Franco Colapinto, nice little drive, huh?
I hope he gets a seat next year. I don't think it's going to happen, but I hope he does.
P11 got up in the mix, pissed off Alex Albon. Tasty little day.
Yeah, he's had a good 3 races to start his tenure. He's already gotten the points.
I see the vision now. I kind of get it.
Yes, and if you're Williams, you're going, dang. Do we need Carlos Sainz? The answer is yes, you do. You want Carlos Sainz. But James Vowles, the team principal at Williams, said they are doing everything in their power to get him a drive for next year. The problem is there's a seat open at Sauber and a seat open at VCarb, which looks like it's going to go to Liam Lawson. So, like, really, there's no seats open in F1. Hopefully he comes to IndyCar next year. I could see him here in St. Pete. That'd be fun.
Sure. We'll take that.
That'd be fun.
Why not? Nice.
Anything else? We have a 4-week break for F1, so we're not going to do podium predictions for Austin. We'll save that for a couple of weeks' time. Anything else on Singapore?
No. Kind of a snoozer of a race, but oh, you know what? Let's go to the chat real quick because this was a common occurrence. A little bit off-color comment here, but Lemon Betty chimes in and says, how do these dudes not die when their car touches a wall? There are Tech Pro barriers to soften the blow of a car into a wall. Number one, thick padding, lots of it as they go into the wall. But they did touch the wall a lot.
Yes.
In that race because it is a street circuit, and luckily nobody had a horrific wreck or anything like that. So that was great. But yeah, that's your answer. And he said, just because it's funny, you don't have to answer that on air.
We're gonna. Tell you what, Lemon Bendy, do me a favor. Go ahead and Google Roman Grosjean. Yes, Roman spelled like the salad. Grosjean crash. Where was that? Bahrain. Yes, yeah, Roman Grosjean crash Bahrain. You are going to wonder how he walked away with just, I believe, a fractured ankle and some burned hands. Like
the guy went through a guardrail. He went through a guardrail.
Through a guardrail. His fuel tank was ruptured and he was engulfed in flames for 43 seconds, I believe.
Yeah.
And walked away pretty much just fine. Again, some scarring on his hands from some burns and a fractured ankle. These drivers, these cars, there is, when you look at the body of the car, there is basically a capsule inside, and that's what they're sitting in. the entire car around them could be shredded to bits, and that capsule will still survive.
It's called the survival cell.
And they have what is now called the halo above them. And it's just basically some reinforced, beams that deflect any debris or, anything away from their head. So basically they're pretty well taken care of. And it's funny to look at because it looks so rudimentary, and it is, but it works.
It works every time.
If you
a number of times.
Yeah. If you watch IndyCar, those drivers actually have windscreens in front of them. Like they have windshields in front of them along with the reinforced halo above them. And you're like, oh, well, why doesn't F1 have any screens in front of their drivers' faces? They really don't need them. Everything else, like it works just fine. And that's great. I don't think there has been a death in F1 in a decade now. There has been an F2, and it does happen. Like this is still a dangerous sport, but it is great to see that it's happening so rarely now. Because when you go back into the pages of this sport's history, I mean, it's laced with dead bodies. Oh yeah, a lot
of deaths. Yeah.
Go watch the movie Grand Prix, and you'll get a good idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. All right, we're at 50 minutes, Sean.
Anything else, Nick?
I beat you to it, and I have nothing else to add.
Okay. We don't do hate it or love it anymore, but I hate hurricanes.
Oh.
Hello, Helene. I'll see you Thursday.
Lemon Benny says, Sean, that crash is insane. Yeah. Crazy crash. It was.
Nick texted me. Nick woke me up that morning and texted me and said, I think, dude, you need to turn on your TV. I think Roman Grosjean just died.
Yeah.
He was serious.
Halo saved his life because he probably would have got decapitated going through the guardrail like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. This has been episode 49 of the Gridiron Podcast for Nick Shook and the absent Katie Caldwell. I'm Sean Barie, and as always, live life in the fast lane.
And don't forget to step into the survival cell. Different than hell in the cell, I promise. Good night, Canada.